Yeah,
Absolutely.
we got some of the world's best wineries here, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I bet
yeah,
it's
yeah.
beautiful
Win
there.
awards. Yeah. A big
Awesome.
fan of our wineries is Maynard from Tool. He's like
Uh-huh.
he's a winemaker nowadays, and he was
Yeah,
like
he is.
Aussie wines are like some of the best in the world.
He's
I had
not
no
wrong.
idea.
Yeah,
Wow.
He's not
yeah,
wrong.
yeah, yeah. We're pretty lucky. Like we get best beef, best food, fresh veg. It's
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Well, how about we go on and ferment ourselves a podcast today, huh?
Oh yeah.
Should we go and do our cheesy intro?
Yeah, it's not cheesy.
It's
That's
cheesy intro. I want to see how many of our guests can keep quiet while we're doing the intro without absolutely laughing and going, "What are you all doing?" So
That's kind of the fun of it, though, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
It's it's campy, but whatever.
Come on then. Has everyone got their script? Are we all ready?
Ready?
All right, I've got my script up. All right, here we go.
Come on then, kick us off, Nate.
Hi, and welcome to Sound Discussion. Each episode, we discuss a music topic which we have all had first-hand experience with. This will be anything from getting started, recording, playing live, mixing, mastering, and everything in between. Most episodes, we will have a special guest to bring their professional experience to the discussion. So, let's get started. Oh, you want me to kick us off? I thought you said.
He was the first one on the.
I
It
know, that's
literally says on the list, Nate.
I thought you said you're going to kick me off, Nate. Okay, whatever.
No, kick us off, Nate. Where you go?
All right. Let's get started, shall we? Quit wasting time. Lazy bums. Today's guest is someone I first met at NAMM 2025, and instead of talking about the newest thing, we actually ended up talking about how to actually make records when budgets are tight, rooms are less than perfect, and the gear is homemade.
Well, I mean, that makes him more dangerous than most people at NAMM.
Yeah. Well, because he understands how to get stuff done with what you have.
That's right. Today, we're being joined by Mitch Rose of the DIY Recording Studio. And when I say DIY, we really mean it. Soldering, building microphone preamps, compressors, EQs, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, studio spaces, acoustic treatment, making home environments that actually work for people.
And doing all of that so artists can make real records without pretending they're in $1 million facility.
Yeah, because we ain't got many of those left anymore. I mean,
Nope.
For real. Mitch's whole approach is about understanding your tools, whether that's a Cappy preamp, a hairball compressor, or other budget gear that just flat out sounds good when you know how to use it.
It's not about cutting corners. It's about knowing what matters and what doesn't. How many times have we heard that on this podcast?
Oh my gosh. I mean, is it the gear or is it the ear or is it both? I don't know. So today we're going to talk about making records at home, building gear and spaces that you can rely on, committing to sounds on the way in. What a novel concept, and why the DIY mindset creates better instincts, not just cheaper studios.
Yeah, and on top of all that, Mitch is also the co-host of the Audio Boys podcast, where the conversations are just as honest and unfiltered and unscripted as they are here.
Yeah. What script?
Right. Which feels very on brand.
This will be a great conversation. So strap yourselves in, kids. Grab a cup of something. And welcome to Mitch Rose, the Sound.
Yeah, Mitch.
Thanks so much, guys. What an intro. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
You weren't wrong on the unfiltered part of our podcast that we have as well. Yeah, it's kind of the whole point of that. It's supposed to be a bit more Aussie and a bit loose sometimes, as Aussies can be. We're trying to have a bit of fun with that one. But
I like it.
Thanks.
It's a fun podcast. It's fun, yeah. And you have a nice set there with the TV behind you, and you can like share stuff. It feels very professional.
Yeah, they've got, so that's part of Midda's studio over there. He's sort of not too far from me, where I live in Newcastle in New South Wales. So like he has his own like warehouse commercial studio space there, and
nice
one here. Yeah. But yeah, I'm very much in a DIY studio for sure.
So far, my favourite bit of this discussion has been Nate saying, "Buckle in, kids," like a 45-year-old man who just immediately showed his age. I don't think anyone says "buckle up, kids." Just for reference, Nate.
Hey, guess what? I'm 44, so I think you nailed that one right on the head there, Ben.
Cool.
I'm old, man. I'm old. Medium old.
Medium old.
Yeah, medium old.
Yeah, that's
You're
correct.
just as old as I am, dude.
Yeah.
44.
Bunch of middle-aged guys with nothing else to do, right?
That's the one.
All right, Mitch, without us wasting any more time, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are? Obviously, you're in Australia, which is a whole conversation unto itself, as we were kind of getting into earlier. But tell everybody a little bit about yourself. You have a YouTube channel, DIY Recording Studio, and, a little bit about you.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm Mitch, and basically I got my start in audio pretty much straight out of high school. I was like just super music nerd, like most of us are, I guess, and kind of just as soon as I saw that you could record music on computers, I was like, I want in on this. This is something that I need to be a part of. And I went and studied at like a kind of what we'd call like a community college, I guess, in the States, but what we call TAFE here in Australia, and did studies in audio and went into live. I was a live engineer for a really long time. And then, and so I cut my teeth in that kind of space, playing in bands, doing live audio, front of house duties, had my own PA, did like all that sort of stuff. And then I took a little bit of a break and then came back to the industry in my sort of late 20s, and then went and studied and did a degree to become a teacher. I always wanted to teach music. It was kind of a big passion of mine. And I studied and focused on the studio side of things this time. And I was getting into studio recording while I was doing live audio stuff in my late 20s. And then whilst at uni, we had like a project where I had to build a microphone. It was just like this simple little dinky thing you're supposed to do, like just cheap parts from like a Radio Shack kind of thing. And I was like, I can solder, I can do this stuff. I want to do something a bit more complicated. And I bought a kit from micparts.com. You guys are familiar with Matt McLean and Mic Parts and Roswell mics as well. He owns that.
Yeah, this mic right here that you see in the upper corner hanging right there, that's a Mic Parts T47.
Yeah, nice. Sick. So, and did you build it yourself, Nate?
Absolutely, I did.
Yeah, hell yeah, man.
So, it was fun.
Yeah. And I built an S12, which was like a C414 copy, like kind of like in between a C12 and a 414 kind of thing that they have. And then that was it, man. I was addicted to DIY, and I was like, I just got to keep doing this. This is so much fun. And started my YouTube channel whilst I was studying, and finished my degree and started teaching and doing the YouTube thing on the side just as a bit of a hobby whilst building gear. And I was fortunate enough to land a job back at where I'd studied originally, in a community college kind of thing at TAFE, what we call TAFE here, which is like technical college kind of thing. Yeah. And we had a SSL duality there and a bunch of awesome outboard and all the famous like preamps and compressors and that you would expect in a high-end studio. And so as I started playing with that stuff, I was like, oh man, this is the sound. Because even where I studied in Sydney, we had a SSL there as well, but we didn't have Neve preamps. Like we were kind of limited in what we had. And so I did my whole degree and didn't even touch a Neve preamp. And I was like, man, like I need to get in this, And so as soon as I had all the gear in front of me, I was like, I need to hear what this sounds like. And as soon as I heard like a bass guitar just DI'd into a real Neve 1073, I was like, oh, that's the sound of records. Like I was like, there's a thing here. There's something that has been missed, and it was missed in my education. And I was like, well, that's got to be missing in everyone else's education as well. Like we're as big studios close down and there's less access to high-end gear, we can kind of miss out on those opportunities to hear what this stuff sounds like. So I was like, I need to share that, and everyone should know what a real Neve sounds like and what an API sounds like, and what real 1176s sound like, because there is a difference. And what is the different? Like the conversation on my channel is like, it's not that hardware, because some people misinterpret sometimes, like, because I do love gear and I love hardware, I love analog stuff, but they misinterpret that sometimes as you hate plugins. And it's like, I don't hate plugins. It's just learning what the benefits are, the pros and cons of each, because they both have pros and cons. And so we have that discussion a lot on the channel. And yeah, and I just got into building more preamps and all that sort of stuff. And that led me to working with companies on YouTube and working with artists here and doing all this kind of crazy stuff. So it's I'm kind of across a lot of things at the moment, but it's a lot of fun. Yeah. So that's kind of me in a nutshell, really.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I think a million questions now, but Karen,
I know. So do I.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that I kind of got from your opening statement there is that with studios closing, you lose access to that gear, but also you lose access to the decades of knowledge that person had, right? Like,
yeah.
There's a knowledge sort of loss that happens when studios close and people just start to go about their lives. And, people that run studios aren't, for the most part, aren't well known and aren't famous. So they sort of quietly disappear, and so does their knowledge. And
Absolutely.
It's so critical that and the internet's an amazing thing, but the other side of that coin is the internet is also a trash heap.
Yes.
For knowledge.
Yeah.
So, it's really finding somebody who has been in that world and can impart that knowledge, because you're not going to be able to get everything from the internet. And
it's really funny you say that, Nate, because is everyone aware that Dave Grohl bought the mixing console from the studio where Nirvana recorded?
Absolutely. Fantastic doc that came out of that too.
Yeah. And I remember I watched it the other day, and it was there's a documentary, isn't there, about him taking it out and taking it back to thick. And I remember sitting there and thinking, yeah, but it's not the console that made Fleetwood Mac's record. It's not the console that made Nirvana's record. It's the person who stood in the studio and recorded them. And you don't buy the man from the studio, woman or whoever it was from the studio. All you're buying is a piece of hardware that everything ran through. And that was the bit. I came away from that documentary thinking, they've missed the whole point. It's just a console. Just buy a different console.
I mean, look at it this way. I've got a paintbrush at home. I've got a roller and a bucket of paint, and I can put paint on my walls, but I'm not a seasoned painter that's been painting for 30 years. I'm going to call my friend Chris, who is a professional painter who will cut those lines edge tight, perfect, razor thin. I'm not even going to bother with it. So a console is just a tool, and you can turn it on, but it doesn't mean you're going to get the Fleetwood Mac sound or the Nirvana sound, right?
It would be like you buying your mate Chris's paintbrush and wondering why you can't paint like Chris.
Right.
That's nailed it. Yeah.
It's
so
like I watched the video and I'm like, I don't really get it. You bought a console. There's a million consoles in the world. Go buy. I mean, you can have any console you want.
Yeah.
It's just a console. And I know it's not just a console, but it's just a console.
But didn't he get Butch Vig to, know?
Yeah, so it was them and Butch Vig again and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right.
So I don't suppose Butch needs a console.
So he got the painter to come in and paint the sound.
He did get the painter.
Yeah, he got the painter. Yeah.
Butch probably didn't need that specific console. He'd probably have been happy with any console.
No.
Yeah, very true.
Exactly.
Anyway, total sidetrack, but I just remember watching it thinking, I don't really get it. I don't get it.
Well, we're out of time, kids. It's been great.
Anyway, we've got a guest apparently. Sorry about that.
But I think what you're touching on there too is actually something that ironically people get stuck on with plugins too, right? Because we get all these hardware emulations, and because it looks pretty and it looks like the hardware, they're like, oh, it does the thing. And it's like, does it though? Like, did you use your ears? Did we scientifically test this? How close is it? Like, what are the differences? And like, I think we've all probably seen online like the heated discussions that have happened in these spaces of plugins versus hardware and all this stuff. And like the main thing Nate said, which is part of like my ethos with the whole channel, is that all of the stuff, hardware, software, plugins, whatever, they are just tools, right? So they're the tools. And like in Australia, we have a thing like, have you heard of tradies? Like a tradesperson?
Yeah.
They're like a plumber, electrician, whatever. Like we have we call them tradies, right? Like, because we're Aussies and we have to have nicknames for everything. And and so tradie culture is like a big thing here because lots of working class tradespeople, that's what most of us grow up with. And for me, audio very much is a trade. Like it's almost like an artisan trade, like kind of like what you were talking about before as well, Nate. where like where we lose these people and their tools and their skill sets in these artisan trades. Audio is very much that, right? Like, and the tools,
100%.
the tools of our trade are our microphones and the preamps, but the knowledge of how to use them. And it's all of that. And then on top of that, now, like, getting away from like the whole hardware versus analog thing, like, they're just all tools. And like the beauty of it is that we can go hybrid, and it's just about how do we apply it into our tool set and into our skill set and just make awesome music, right? Like, isn't that the whole awesome part of it? Like, we just get to make awesome music, and we can afford cool gear now. And like, you guys should all remember like how expensive a Neve preamp used to be, and now you can get them affordably. You know, it's an awesome time to be in music for sure.
It really is. It really is sort of a golden age of cloning abilities and DIY capabilities. And I mean, you know, somebody using a Neve clone, let's say from a company who has the second letter of the alphabet as their first name, Behringer. We'll just go and say it. There we go.
Yep. Yeah, it's fine.
People shit on the Behringer Neve clone, and I haven't used it myself. I've used the 33609. I have it racked over here, and it sounds it sounds fantastic. Yeah. It doesn't sound fantastic on everything, but it sounds good. And I bet you, I'm willing to bet my lunch money that any song that goes through my room here and through that piece of gear, no one's going to know that was a Behringer 33609, let alone what kind of compressor was on the bus, right? So like, does it matter that you have a Behringer preamp or a Behringer compressor versus the real deal Neve preamp or Neve compressor or whatever it is? Like, does anyone actually care? Besides the people that love to, you know, create the argument on YouTube about your gear is shit and you should go buy a Neve. Does anyone really care?
Yeah, no. And the artists don't know. Like, I think there's a funny like balancing act with all of that. Like, it is a benefit in some ways. When you have cool gear in a studio, it's cool to have some good pieces. So the artist comes in and feels special, and they feel like there's good. They're going to be singing through good gear, and
you have something to offer them, and you know what you're doing.
Totally, because it's like a service industry, so they want to see you with good tools. Like, imagine, you know, going back to that paint analogy, like you rock up with the worst painting equipment ever, and you're like, oh my god, this is going to be a nightmare. Like, how are you going to get that done with a paintbrush is missing half of its bristles? What?
Totally. But if you think about it, like the equipment, like from like even just 10 years ago, Behringer like has come a long way as far as like the technology today. Like Behringer used to be like Behringer, I equate them to like Kia in the car market, Kia and Hyundai.
Yeah.
Like Kia and Hyundai's used to be shit back then. And so I kind of think Behringer is similar in that sense, that like they just got their hands in a bunch of different pots and was trying to make a bunch of stuff. And they made some good shit.
Well, we could devote an entire episode to Behringer because, you know,
they do everything.
The Music Tribe Corporation is a big conglomerate of companies with, you know, Midas and Behringer and TC Electronic and a whole bunch of others. So, you know, when you have access to all of these different companies that actually do very well in their specific areas, now you actually you have something, right? You have this whole in-house, you know, system that you can pull from instead of, you know, half-assing stuff like they might have done 20 years ago. Yeah. You know, Midas makes good transformers, and TC Electronics makes really good DSP stuff. So like you put all that together and you got some serious kit now.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
I use Behringer Live. I use their Midas preamps live.
Nice.
Hey, Behringer, do you want to come on the podcast sometime?
Come on.
Talking a lot about you.
I was just going to say, Neil, I think there's a massive number of bands who couldn't function live without Behringer's kit. Whether it's
right.
Whether it's a headphone amps or whether it's, you know,
the XR18. Like, how many live bands use the XR18?
So again, I asked the question: cheap equipment. Does it really matter? For the sake of an argument on YouTube, fine, it's going to get you clicks. But at the end of the day, if you know how to use that piece of equipment, no one's going to know the difference. And it's not going to degrade your sound or make it any better. It's just going to do its thing, and it's going to be fine.
we've covered this so many times with everybody who's come on. The bottom line is, when you're listening to it in your car, it's a band you like. You've put the track on in your car. You don't know where it was recorded, who recorded it, what they used. They could have used a tin can and a piece of string. You don't care.
If your head's bobbing, there you go.
That's
right?
it. Nobody cares. It's an audiophile snobbery discussion about, oh, well, if you haven't recorded it on a U87, it's not properly recorded. It's like, yeah, sure, okay. Well, the rest of us, people in this world like us, will just go on making music, and nobody will know. You can all continue arguing that it was the wrong mic. Oh, that's the wrong microphone on that snare drum. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounded all right to me.
Yeah. Like, I've got a good story for snare, actually. The other day, my power emitter that I was talking about before from the podcast, from the Audio Boys podcast, he was like, I found my favorite snare mic, and it was the talkback mic. He had a Beta 57 for talkback next to the drummer's, head while he was playing. And weirdly, the tone coming from the snare drum in that room spilling into that snare, he was like, it has the ring and the pop that I've been chasing forever, and it's completely just there as a talkback mic.
No,
and he was
there you go.
This little bit of just push it into the mix, just this tiny bit, roll off some of the cymbal bleed and that, and the highs, done. See you later. That's wild, and it's that thing where, like, sometimes if you just focus on the gear and you're not using your ears and listening to what's really happening in the room, in the moment, you'll miss those things. And like, yeah, it was just like, whoa, like, how cool does that sound, And he's like, that's the thing that I'll now do on sessions, is have that there.
Just a talkback mic. That's so fucking cool. I love stories like that.
Yeah.
Like, as a blend into the rest of the microphone that he does, it sounded perfect. It sounded sick. I was like, oh my God, like, that's the new technique. The head
That's
mic.
rad.
Yeah, and that's something that would have happened a lot more in the past. I think what comes to mind is when we spoke to Warren Hewitt, and he said back in the day, Aerosmith used to book the studio for 3 months.
Yep.
And they'd just go in and they'd just move microphones about and try different microphones and mic it up in the hall and mic it up in the cupboard and mic it up out in the garage. And that doesn't happen today, because nobody books a studio for 3 months to go, yeah, let's just go in the studio and try stuff.
Yep.
Right.
So it's they're by accident now, aren't they? Rather than we'll just try and find something new. It's those by accident moments that are really cool.
Yeah, totally. 100%. And like, I think, like, with everyone starting to develop home studios and it becoming more of a popular thing, I think we will maybe head back to that, like not 3-month bookouts, but like you being able to experiment in your own space is kind of a cool thing. Like, I love, like, when I was at uni, I remember having a heated discussion with a lecturer, and like during uni, when I went back to study in my 30s, I was very conscious of trying not to be that like older student, like, and not be the guy always having an opinion. But there was this one moment where we were talking about the industry and economics and where things were headed. And this was about 10 years ago now. And I was like, big studios are shutting down everywhere. They're shutting down in America. They're shutting down in Australia. We only have like a couple of major studios left here. And it's like, it's going to head home. Like, it's going to end up in people's homes, and that's what it's going to be. Like, it was very obvious even then that this is where it would eventuate. And his argument, this like particular lecturer's argument, was like, no, there'll always be big studios. And I'm like, yeah, of course there will be, because people want to pay the price and pay for the experience. Like, but that's what it will probably more become, is an experience. Like, there are artists literally and studios that offer, like, you go and stay there, and like, it's becoming this like getaway experience kind of thing for people.
Yeah.
Less than like an actual commercial thing that makes money. But the home studio thing, especially like post, the pandemic and all that, like, that really just pushed everyone to actually deal with it and finally accept that, hey, maybe this can be a real thing. And now, like, everyone's just like, oh yeah, you can have a home studio. So like, it flicked that switch for everyone. And I think now we live in this awesome time where you can have a home studio. It's not taboo anymore, and artists accept it. Like, I've never once had an artist come in here and go, oh, this is just a home studio. You know what I mean? Like, they're just like, yeah, let's make a record. Like, the perception has completely changed with young artists. And like, going back to like what artists expect in the studio too, like, we're also getting to a point where kids are just growing up with laptops and cheap interfaces, and they're fine with that too. So you don't need to have the best outboard analog gear, but it is nice to have. Like, but you can make records on whatever you want to make it on, and I think everything about it.
There's amazing songs being put out that are just a cheap condenser, Audio Technica 4020, whatever it's called, into a Focusrite.
Focusrite to it too. Yeah,
exactly. Like and good stuff is coming from that. So it goes back to what Neil was saying is having the right song and an artist that knows what they're doing, using their instrument, whatever it might be, a voice, a guitar, a drum kit, whatever.
Painter.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, like the song is king, right? Like the song and the arrangement is everything first. Like, and then we just get to put the sugar on top, like it's just, yeah.
What did Britt say? You can't polish a turd.
Yeah.
Can't polish a turd, but you can roll it around in glitter. Just so you know.
There we go.
Yeah. So
Mitch,
I want to get back to building stuff. Nate, I'm sorry. I want to get back to building.
No. Yeah, I was literally going to say let's talk about what you have in your studio, Mitch. Tell us a little bit about your space.
Cool. So right now, this is my one room where I record artists. We do everything in here. I have like a 24-channel console, like kind of right in front of me. I can swap cameras. I've got an extra camera set up here. I'll show you some stuff if you want. But yeah, to the right of me, I have my main rack of 500 series stuff, predominantly which I've built. Let me just check it's all going. Here we go.
Rad.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'll pop this up a bit.
So if you're just listening to the podcast and you're not watching the
video, you gotta switch over to the
really like just take a gander at it.
That's a reason to watch the video. But basically, I've got a bunch of 500 series racks. We've got up the top there, we've got like a LA2A clone from IGS. One of my tube cores is busted at the moment, so I've got to repair that. So there's usually a pair there. There's a tape saturator that's floating around. I'm constantly pulling gear in and out at the moment for YouTube stuff. And then up the top of that main rack is like some Neve clones and some Cappy stuff. And I'll just zoom in for you. There we go. So I built that first rack up here. Up top are your like Sound Sculptor Neve preamps and EQs, your Cappy VP28s and BT50 EQs. There's an SSL EQ thing from Link Audio. Have you guys heard of them?
I've heard of them. They're kind of hard to get stuff from, it seems, or maybe that was just a sort of post-pandemic problem that everybody was having.
Yeah, they're based in Germany, so it could be tricky, but it should be fine now. I've got another one of those to build. That's what the empty slot's there for the second one. I always do everything in pairs.
Yeah.
It's got more Sound Sculptor tube preamps, the MP566s, the OLA5s from DIYRE. They're like Opto LA4 type compressors.
I've got a pair of those OLA5s on my build bench right now.
Dude, so you got them before they discontinued?
I bought them just before they discontinued. I didn't know they were going to be discontinued. I just bought them because I'm like, I've been meaning to buy them forever. And then like 3 months later, they're like, yeah, so we're not continuing them anymore. I'm like, shit, got in right on time.
I'll tell you now, they are my secret vocal bus compressor. So they live on my vocal bus. Yeah, they do a thing to the like upper mids of a vocal. And they're just kind of that last little thing that just brings them like up in the mix and sits them on top of the mix if you want that kind of really clean, polished kind of thing. Yeah, they're very cool.
I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with the LA4. I do love the LA3A. And my favorite compressor of all time, my Desert Island, the one I will save out of a burning building, is my LA2A that I hand built.
Nice.
Yeah. So I love that style of opto compression.
Yes.
I'm really excited to get those built and into service.
So the LA2A, which one did you build?
I bought the chassis from Analog Vibes.
Yep.
In Germany or somewhere. Not sure where. It comes from Dawn Audio, I think.
Yeah. Cool.
And then I sourced all the parts myself through Mouser and DigiKey and whatever else around the internet. It took me months to sort of put the parts list together
that's hard,
and
man. That's
buy
true
everything. And yeah, the whole build took me maybe 20 hours.
Yep.
But 2 years.
Yeah.
So you found all the parts individually?
Yeah, I found all the parts individually.
So this is my question, right? And I mean this. I don't mean this flippantly, right? So
I know exactly what your question is going to be.
1176s or LA2As go for bazillions of pounds,
mm-hmm.
and yet you can build one.
Yeah.
So my question is, is what you build like the same? I know that sounds stupid, but so
the schematic, the build, what's the word? Topology. The version of the one that I built that Analog Vibes offers is a 1968 LA2A. I'm not exactly sure of the date, but it is
you can still get all the original
to that. You can get just about all the original parts. The only thing that you're gonna have a really hard time getting is the transformer input and transformer output.
Yeah, what is it? Because it's SOTA, the Salter or SOTA or whatever, however.
I didn't go with Salter. I went with shoot, what is that? Oliver's company. The A24 that they offer. Shoot. Hold, please. I'm gonna look it up.
So this is my question about I know Nate's built some 500 series stuff, and you've obviously got racks of it.
Yeah.
And going back to nobody knows whether you used a Neve or an API input when they listen to the record at the end.
Yeah.
My question isn't, do they sound like a Neve or an API preamp, right? Because it really doesn't matter.
Of course.
It does. They do the same thing that those do, if you see what I mean. Everyone knows, and a Neve preamp sounds different to an SSL preamp. It does sound different. It gives you a different tone. And
Absolutely.
So when you build yourself, it gives you that flavor, the same flavor as the original.
Yeah. As long as the topologies are like the right, like filled with the right components. Yeah, absolutely. And the beauty of like the DIY community in most part is that the people that are doing these kits, if you buy them as a kit, or the group DIY communities that will share what components are the right ones, they're pretty like, some of them are the engineers that worked on those things. Like for instance, Cappy, Jeff Steiger is based in like Tennessee. Those preamps, like they're so hard to get. They're still like hard to get a hold of. He sells out of them every year. Like you can't even stock enough DIY kits.
Right. They go quickly when he gets enough pieces in stock to form a kit. They're gone in minutes.
Everyone in Nashville knows Cappy gear. Like everyone uses Cappy over API, and there's a reason for that. And it's because the Cappy stuff is actually truer, like to the original topology than the current API stuff.
Wow.
And they might get upset about that, but that's the truth. It's what it is. And I've had people like even comment on my Cappy videos when I've made them, oh, it's not a real API. And I'm like, which one? Which API? Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about like the original 70s? Are you talking about the 80s? Are you talking about like the current one? Because the versions are different and they change the topologies, they change the circuits. And in the case of something like a Cappy, this is where like the topology becomes really important. There's an op-amp stage. There's two op-amps in the Cappy VP28s. The op-amp is like an operational amplifier. It's just all transistors and stuff. But the way that is, the components that are in it and the way that it's put into the circuit dictates the type of saturation and, response that you get. So there are components that really don't matter. Things like resistors and that, unless they're doing something. Like we can get into, there's so much nerd deep.
There's a lot. Yeah.
There's a lot to it, but like basic resistors and stuff don't have a sound really. But then you can get into the capacitor debate where certain capacitors have a different sound and a property, which can be a thing. And then you can get into the debate of like transformers and op amps and all that, which do have different characteristics. And it's about how those are put into the circuit and utilized to create the sonic characteristics that they're chasing. So, like a Neve is like everyone should know, like just through talking about them, that the Neve has a certain high frequency top end to it and a nice big bottom end to it. The API style preamps are more mid forward and punchier sounding. An SSL
And can get crispy sometimes if you push them a little too hard.
Totally. And then like an SSL, people think SSLs are clean. They're really not a clean preamp. Like clean is like a Grace Designs or Millennium preamps or something like that. An SSL has a little bit of grit to it, but it's cleaner to the other two and has more headroom to it because it doesn't shave off transients. Like what people miss about preamps is they do things like shave off transients a little bit, and you're getting like a little bit of saturation and compression for free from a good preamp. And that's why we like it, right? Like, but yeah, like there's this whole thing about it. And Ben like pretty much nailed it, right? Like they're different tones. They're just different tones. So you plug into one thing for a certain tone, like you would a guitar amp. And if you have more boxes of tones to work with, more colors, more palettes, then you can just have more to play with and dial in those tones when you're tracking. And I think like, you don't need a lot of hardware these days, if any, but in tracking, if you're recording artists, a couple of pieces go a long way for sure. And that's where I think like it's important for people to understand hardware and like where it's useful. Tracking vocals, for instance, is a conversation I have with a lot of people. They're like, why would I buy a piece of hardware when I can use plugins? And I'm like, get a good preamp, get a good compressor, record some vocals with it, and then come back to me and tell me the difference, you know, because there is a difference for the artist in particular.
I was going to say, I think like, if you're tracking what they hear in their headphones, if you've used a good preamp and a good compressor, so immediately they sound mixed in their ears, makes a huge difference.
It absolutely informs their performance and their decisions.
Absolutely. That's the biggest one for me. And like, I saw it myself. Experimenting on things myself and then with other artists as well. And yeah, it was just like I was getting better takes instantly, like partly because of the hardware doing its thing, but also because the performer was more comfortable and enjoying it more and going, holy shit, I sound great. Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Right.
It's real-time feedback. Is that why? Because I know that's one of the reasons why like I love playing guitar through a guitar amp is
exactly
like, you're getting the real-time feedback. And I love singing. You know, when I'm singing and recording myself, I don't have any plugins on because I don't want to hear like any sort of delay or anything like that. I actually don't even hear my voice through the software. I hear it just directly through. I route it directly out to my headphones because I want to hear that instant real-time feedback.
Yeah. That's
what you're getting with outboard gear and
100%, like zero latency, right? So the other beauty of analog is that there is no latency. Like, and that's one of those missed things. And once again, that's only a problem in tracking, really. And so, like for me, like when people are like ask me online, like, why all the hardware? I don't need that. Blah 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 blah. And it's like, you don't need it, but this is
especially if you're not tracking anything.
Yeah, and like I have a lot of mix engine. Like I've had discussions with people who mix or master, and I'm like, you're not tracking, dude. Like I record artists every day. For me, it makes my job easier. That's why I use it. And they're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, nah, man, like go record an album and then tell me. Like, you know what I mean? Like I love having the artist get that instant feedback, like from, you know, whatever they're running through, and they feel more comfortable because of it and they sound great. And you just get like, there is a benefit to it. It's not cheap to have lots of hardware. This has been a long journey for me. Like it's taken years. Like Nate, you were saying it took you 2 years to build your LA2A, your dream compressor. Like that's awesome.
It shouldn't have. It shouldn't have. I should have finished it sooner than that. But that's how long it took me.
I've got like 4 other Cappy preamps, the VP25s and VP26s in pairs, and a couple more SSL preamps to do. I got gear. I got a whole rack full of stuff still to be built that's been sitting there. Some of it.
Oh, good. I'm not alone then. Like I've got a line of things waiting to be built, and I'm like, I'll get to them one day.
Dude, like I'm spending these holidays building a bunch of stuff to finish up. I'm actually building a control room in my. So this is in my house. My kids are like hanging out this morning. It's morning time over here in Australia. They just had breakfast, and the kitchen and dining room and living room are just there. But this room is like properly soundproof, so I can work and whatever from home late at night and not disturb them. But I'm actually stealing another room in the house. My partner is very gracious. And because we've just been busy this year tracking and recording a lot of local artists, and I have an intern now, so I need another space to get work.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations on being able to have an intern, man. That's great.
Yeah, it's cool. It just kind of has happened naturally. People are seeing me post online and doing all my thing and going, oh, can I intern in your studio kind of thing? And I'm like, yeah, cool. So I took a couple on this year. And then I'm going to take a new one on next year as well. So yeah, and I'm building a control room. So this would be a permanent live room, and the other room's going to be a control room only. And that's a big step up as well. And going back to that traditional kind of setup, but just in a home. Like, but then again, like people like, the one I always think about is Motown. Like they literally bought 2 homes and that was the business, right? Like that was a home studio. And how many hit records were made in that house?
Yeah.
You know,
like, no one walked into Motown and be like, this is this home studio business.
Yeah.
No one said that ever.
Yeah.
Nope.
And like and what I love about the Motown story is that they approached it like the rest of the city as far as a production line thing, where they're like, yeah, we're here to make records, and every day we get in the studio and we make music and we make records and we churn this stuff out. And in a home setup, you can kind of do that, like especially if you've got the team, which is why I'm building up interns and I'm trying to build a team here to try and churn out more stuff. And turn it into a well-oiled machine, hopefully by next year sometime. So,
I mean, anyone who's been to Abbey Road Studios, I mean, it's a house on the street.
Is it really?
They bought a house and then just extended it out the back. It's just a house.
Wow. Well, that must be a big extension then, because don't they have a giant live space? Like
massive extension.
Wait
They
a
built
minute,
like a size studio in it. But the front, you walk up to the front and it's just a house.
I did not know that. I thought it was a commeral building.
Did they buy a bunch of other houses behind it, or something?
It had a lot of land behind it. Without getting it, HMV owned it, and that's where it's all sort of started up. But yeah, it had lots of land, and then they just extended it back. And
look at that, we learned something today. All right,
that's cool.
We did our job.
Yeah. So next question, right, from the idiot who doesn't actually know how to solder anything ever, didn't do anything electronic at school, and what skills do you need to be able to build your own hardware?
God, that was going to be my question too.
Yeah, cool. Literally, you just need to learn to solder. This year, I created a course.
That's like,
I'm out.
Like honestly, like
me too.
No interest in learning.
It looks really hard. I'm just going to melt stuff everywhere. It's going to go all over.
It's not that difficult, guys. It's not hard at all. There's some like starter kits that just, they're just for fun. You're not really, I mean, you could make something of it, but a lot of it's just soldering components and practicing at it. And there are a couple parts.
I'm going to fuck something up.
You're not.
This is me, right?
I'm going to fuck something up.
Yeah, circuit board, molten metal.
Nah, man. Like you start on simple circuits, and then and then work your way up. So like a good starting point is either like a hobby kit or like a simple fuzz guitar pedal, something like that's cheap components. It doesn't matter if you break it. Doesn't matter if you mess it up on your soldering or anything like that. You know what I mean? A fuzz pedal or a cool like distortion pedal is like one of the easiest circuits to build. I have a video coming out in like a week or so, just before Christmas, on building basic circuits with Play-Doh. So maybe
it's like I've lined this up for him. Look at this.
With Play-Doh.
Yeah.
With Play-Doh?
Yeah. I don't know when this podcast will come out, but I don't know if the video will be out before then or not. But so shameless self-plug. But yeah.
That's what you're here for, man.
I'll build a circuit with Play-Doh. That's
Neil, you should totally be getting into guitar pedals, man. Like there's some guitar pedals that take 10 minutes to put together. Like, I mean, you could even go the whole like JHS solderless kit, and it's all just like plug-in components, the Klon or whatever. But then there's some really simple solder stuff, and you can totally build yourself a rad-ass guitar pedal, man.
Yeah, dude. Like
that's the dream. I would like that, but at the same time, like, I don't want to burn and.
You're not.
You won't. Look, the way I look at it is
help me out here, Ben.
It's a really awesome skill too. Like it's just you feel a little bit like Tony Stark in Iron Man, you know, like you're building away and you're like, man, I'm doing this cool thing. And it's also like when you solder something more complex, like a preamp or a compressor, it becomes a little bit like doing a puzzle, or like it's kind of, or building Lego or something like that. Like they're kind of good analogies for how it feels. Like you're piecing this thing together, and it's kind of like a little bit of a creative challenge. And you're challenging like your ability to solder. And like, don't get me wrong, there are some really tough things that you can build. People freak out when they see the op amps in like a Cappy preamp, because they're like these tiny little coin-sized little circuit boards. They're brutal. Like I wouldn't recommend them to any beginner. But yeah, guitar pedals, microphones, there's some really simple circuits. All the DIY RE stuff is really, really awesome as a starting point as well. They're a company that really wants to help people get into it. They do these color modules that are like little circuits. They're essentially like guitar pedals, but for 500 series. So there's like different tones, and you can build those little circuits and dabble in soldering for the first time without, you know, destroying expensive components and stuff like that. It's not.
I'm kind of joking. I actually would love to get into soldering.
Yeah, you're going to do it. I can see it on his face.
Well, and because I've got guitars that like I need to figure out the volume pot, and they're messing up shit like that.
That's exactly that's a great place to get started. Man.
I would actually really like to do that, and then to make my own guitar pedal. Yeah, that'd be fucking cool.
Dude. Yeah, so we're gonna get him.
Neil's in. Yeah, he's on board.
Yeah, see, I love building shit. I love it. So I built my own computer. So I fucking love that shit. I built my own computers. I know it. Well, there's the soldering aspect of it that I need to learn. But
the soldering might be intimidating at first, but once you get it, it's not. I mean, just don't touch the tip of it, right? Just don't do that. Don't be like, oh wow. Don't do that,
dude. I fuck up with hot glue. Okay, fucking hot glue gun.
But so do the kits come with literally like Lego? Start on step 1, put this bit here. So
most good kits do. Like the only time you're not going to get that is when you're doing the full DIY approach, like I did with my LA2A. But even then, they provided really good step-by-step instructions. But you do have to kind of know the topology and sort of what you're doing. You know, it's not, you know, plug in part A into socket A. It's not that at all.
Yeah, the easiest kits for starting on are either like a mic parts microphone kit or a DIY RE. If you guys are familiar with them, we mentioned it before. Any one of their like, they've got like a couple of different boxes, like simple DI boxes you can build, or some other like kind of easier projects. But yeah, guitar pedals are such a good one. Like I literally, when I went and, you know, I mentioned going and studying. When I first went and studied out of high school, I thought as an audio like technology engineering like kind of thing, I was going to learn pedals and like how to build them and how to create circuits. And I was bitterly disappointed when that was not even a part of the course. All we learned to build was some simple cables. But once you can solder a cable like an XLR or an instrument lead, you can solder anything else, especially if you have the technique down. So like even cable making is a good practice with cheap stuff to just get your skills up. And not one more shameless plug. I'll just squeeze one more in there.
No.
I've got a course on my website for beginners.
Awesome.
For beginners to learn soldering. So there's like about 6 videos. It's like a step-by-step on how to, basically it is just cables. It's how to do XLR cables and instrument cables. But going on with that skill, you can then repair things like Neil mentioned, guitars. Like if you can do cable work, you can absolutely then fix the pickups in your guitar and stuff like that. And then if you feel confident, transfer that to pedal making and stuff like that. And I'm going to do an intermediate course in 26 as well to get more into the next steps of PCB, because there are some other tricks and some other bits that you might want.
Yeah.
But the beginning soldering course, that'll get you going. Like, it's not that hard at all if you just follow along. And like, just so you know, Neil, it's $5. It's only $5 at the moment, 90% off.
Dude, 90% off. That's a deal, man.
Just spend the $5, Neil. Come on, man.
Yeah.
And then you just need a soldering iron.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, like I even repair like my kids' toys and stuff now. Like if something breaks, it's simple to fix. You can fix them. Like it's a cool skill to have. being able to repair stuff like that.
Well, everything has a circuit board in it now. Like you said, like I've repaired stuff for my kids. I've repaired like a string of LED Christmas lights that had a little micro board in them. Like
Nice
stuff breaks, and I'm just like, this is still good. Like, yeah, you know, like just crack it open. What's the problem? Okay, great.
Dude,
Get a resistor. Done.
Totally. And like the guitar thing is like one of the biggest ones, right? Like I do some repairs and stuff as well. And I get customers sending me like real simple stuff. And I'm like, man, like everyone should be able to kind of do this on their own if they just took the time to learn. So
I bet you the shipping of that component costs more, or the shipping of that device costs more than the component replacement itself.
Dude, totally. Yeah. So yeah, it is a cool skill, definitely, for people to learn. So I just want to help people get that skill, you know, like with the audio side of things. I think like, and it's going back to the tradition of being an audio engineer. Like back in the day, being an audio engineer, Abbey Road, you wore a lab coat, right? And you were, by all definitions, an actual engineer. Like to be there, you had to be an electrical engineer. So like it is kind of cool to kind of bring it back to that and be like, how does the gear really work? Like what's really happening here? Because being more informed, like we don't really have to know the inner workings of a Neve to use one, right? Like we're just creative people. We can just make music and whatever. But the more informed you are, maybe it helps you make a better record if you're more technically minded. Like I like the creative side of music and I like just turning dials and making sounds. But sometimes that technical brain is kind of cool too, and you can come up with cool stuff that way. So it just
I'll say this. I akin it to sort of like being able to see the matrix to some degree. You know, you have knobs on a compressor, and you might have a lot of knobs on a compressor, and you're like, I don't know what these do, but I put them in a certain position and they go compress, right?
Hello.
And you're just like, yeah, exactly, right? Yep. But if you have even a small understanding of the topology of that compression circuit and what those knobs are actually doing, what components are in that circuit for that knob, it actually might help you make a better informed decision on how to use that and, you know, where it's appropriate, where it's not. And more so than just turning a physical knob, which is 1,000 times better than turning a knob on a computer screen. But you're better informed on what's actually happening. And that can make a huge difference in how you approach a recording or mixing a song.
Yeah, totally. And like, how do you become like a great guitarist, right? You learn all the rules and then you learn how to break them, right? And it's kind of like that with all of this stuff, yeah? Like, learn the rules, learn how the thing works, and then learn how you can fuck it all up and make it awesome, you know?
Right. Absolutely. So the transformer that I used in my LA2A build was from AMI. Got it from Tab Funkin' Work.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah. The U10 and UT10 and UT24 direct replacements for the UTC components that are no longer available cheaply. They come up on eBay. Yeah, no, they come up on eBay every now and again, and they cost about as much as a Kia nowadays. It's stupid expensive how much they can cost.
Crazy. Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of really good components out there which have been backward engineered and, you know, non-working components sacrificed for the better good of making new counterparts, right? New clones that
totally,
you know, like. Is that UT10 just as good as a UTC10? I don't know. They both measured damn near the same when you put them on a scope, and I guarantee you're not going to know the difference between that and, you know, the modern replacements.
Totally,
you're just not going to hear it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Hey, have you seen the latest videos that I've done on the Brick Lanes at all? This is an interesting one.
I have not. I've sort of taken a break from YouTube. It got to me, and I needed to step away from it for a while.
So did you ever catch them at NAMM in 25, like this year, earlier at NAMM?
I don't think so. No.
The Cranbourne Audio Brick Lanes.
No.
So this is an interesting one because it goes the other way in what we're talking about with circuit design, and they just sent me their Brick Lanes, and I'll show them. They're this cool. I'll pull them up. And they're this cool design 500 series compressor. You guys are familiar with Cranbourne, right? They're not far from you there, Ben. Hang on a second. Let me zoom in. There they are. So they're alone in the rack over there. And basically, they're like a VCA kind of compressor where you've got like an input threshold, attack release, output here. But then I'll zoom in a bit now. I'll get closer. Show you. What they've got is this switch down here, where you can select different modes of compression. And basically what they've done, they've taken like PWM style compression, which is pulse width modulation, like your Pi compressor. And what you can do with that, because of the inherent way it works, is use that to emulate other types of compressors, right? But emulate in analog. It's really weird. Like it's way above what I understand about engineering. But the guys from Cranbourne are engineers, the two founders. They're like next level engineers in this space. They've worked for other companies like Aston Mikes and that previously. Anyway, this was like my most exciting find at NAMM, because what it does all the compressor types and then also limiting and clipping. And so they've designed this compressor that can do all the compression, all the different types with the different built-in. And then on top of that, it's got a dial for distortion. They call it the stress knob, like stress, but it's like, kind of like a stressor or something maybe. Yeah, but it adds distortion. So you can have like an 1176 style compression, clean, and then pick how much saturation you want on that. It's like, yeah. And the two limiters that are in there's two different types of limiters, a hard knee and a soft knee. They have different types of clippers on there. So the stress knob becomes like a clipper. And like I've only just been playing with them the last couple of weeks and making content for it online. And man, like I've got distressors over here on this side. I've got all the compressor types, right? I've got Varimus, I've got Optos, I've got all that. It does all the things. It's crazy. And it's like in one unit or a pair of units, you can have all these compressor types, not emulations as digital, but actual analog circuitry, real saturation in there. And then the limiting and clipping, like I've used it on master bus duties for mastering, and you can do the exact same thing, if not better, as like an L2 from like FabFilter with them. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of circuits in a small little package.
Yeah. A lot of soldering.
Of course.
Those are going to be all surface mount components, tiny components.
It's gotta be. But it's like real diodes for diode clipping and real, like it's all the real analog counterparts just in components. Yeah. But like they're wild, man. Like, and on, like for instance, like the thing they have for, like they've got different names like Velvet, and Velvet is Varimu, and Float is like Opto, whatever. And they've got this Smash one, which is obviously 1176. And that is incredible. Like it's so good. The glue is like a VCA. They got one called Glue, which is obviously VCA compression, does the SSL thing. So you can use them as a pair on like Mixbus or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, and it does the things. And then having the distortion, like imagine going, all right, I've got the SSL compressor kind of thing on my bus. What does it sound like with a bit of saturation now? And you just go, bang, done. It's kind of cool.
I think the only problem with that is that there's so many different types of compression, and you only have a pair, so you can only run one thing through it at a time, really, right? It's like you need like a whole 500 rack full of them, dude, if you're gonna sort of outfit everything, which they'll be happy to sell you, I'm sure.
Yeah. So like, honestly, like I'm at the point where I've looked around the room and gone, is there something I could sell here? Because I've got some more vintagey pieces in the room as well. And I'm like, could I sell a couple of pieces and get another pair? Like, wow. It's pretty cool.
They're that good. They're that good that you would sell something, more vintagey.
I would have another pair so I could do like more. Yeah. Like I've got distressors and stuff. There's definitely a way to get them to do a distressor thing, but man, they can compete with, I've got a real SSL bus compressor. They can do that. They like, yeah, it's wild.
I haven't got distressors, but I do have my Fatso, and I will not give that up.
Oh, dude, yeah, dude. I was actually
not give that up.
I was nerding out on some of your gear. You did a post on Instagram, I think, the other day.
Yeah,
and I was like, zooming in, trying to see what you got. Can't help myself. And I was like,
no, totally, man. Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Was that Nate's new stylized professional photographs that he posted?
That's
great.
Yeah. Swanky, my friend.
Yeah.
Photographer come in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm terrible at taking pictures myself. I mean, this is actually a really good example. So like, I have a camera. I have a professional like Nikon camera. I have a phone, right? Everyone has a phone. You can take pictures. Yep. But I was talking with a photographer coming in to take pictures. And I'm like, I would rather pay you to come in and really see the space from your eyes as an outsider, as opposed to me who walks down here every day and sort of looks around and sees the space, be like, yeah, I like my space. But they have a different point of view to see through their lens. And it's the same thing as hiring a producer or hiring a mixing engineer, is to hear your music through a different pair of ears and see it through a different lens and get a different take on that. And so having that photographer come in and take a look at my room and take pictures of it, he accomplished something I would never be able to capture on my own, because I just don't see the world through him.
Yeah. Bringing it back around, like that's the same analogy with the painter and the painting gear. Like you have the brushes,
and he's a professional. He knows how to use his camera versus me and my cell phone camera. Whatever.
Yeah. See, I've got the tools. I've got the paintbrushes, but I'm no fucking painter.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yeah. And the time it takes, like it takes so much time to learn all these facets of it all, and like you can spend years getting good at videography and learning video editing software, or like learning Lightroom, and oh god, I've done it.
I don't need another hobby, right? I don't need another thing to take all of my time. I got enough things that take up my time.
Yeah, so, I think if you have kids and family, that's it.
Gladly have a photographer come in who knows what they're doing, take pictures, and make me look good. And I'm super happy with the way those pictures came out. So
that's good, man.
Thank you. I think we're almost out of time here. We got to wrap this up. So tell us, what is your, it's going to be a tough one. What is your desert island ride or die, save it from a burning building, piece of gear or plug-in, or one of each?
Oof. Plug-in's easy at the moment. Are you guys familiar with the gold clip from Schwab Digital?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't used it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah. Clipping was one of the things that I'd never used properly until this year in mixes, and it transformed everything I do mix-wise after that. I was listening to, you guys familiar with Bob Horn? Engineer. He worked as an assistant for Dave Pensato and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I got to meet him through another YouTuber at NAMM. And we were in some studios in LA, and I'm listening to his mixes and I'm like, damn, like this is just next level. Like my best masters didn't sound as clean and as crisp and as loud as this guy's mixes, right? And we're chatting and I'm like, man, like what's going on? And he gave me some pointers on what he's using. And I got back from LA and did some real deep diving into modern production, what people are using, and clipping became the obvious one that was missing in my kind of signal chain. And I started listening to really polished like pop records, things like Sabrina Carpenter and, your Taylor Swift stuff, and anything like pretty super recent, but stuff that appeared. What I started to look at was, everyone thinks that Spotify, everyone knows Spotify has this like normalization thing, but there are still songs that appear louder when we listen to them, right? And I'm like, I heard the Sabrina Carpenter tracks and I was like, how are those louder with even normalization? There's something special going on.
Yeah.
And I started cluing into that and looking at things. And if you go, like anyone listening to this podcast, you guys included, should probably go do this. Go listen to some tracks, especially that one, like the previous album she had with the songs like Taste and stuff on it. And it is so much brighter and cleaner and louder than anything else on Spotify, right? Like it's audibly louder, even with full normalization on.
It totally is.
And it's like, so they're doing something special there to get away with that. And it's partly brightness and it's clipping. And if you listen to the kick in particular and the snare a little bit, you can hear it crunching in this way, but it's not distasteful. It's distorted in a way that sounds good, and it's clipping. And once you get your head around that and what it is, and you start trying and playing with it, you start to go, oh man, I can clip this and I can clip that. And then all of a sudden you get to your mix bus and you haven't got these extreme peaks. Now, this isn't a technique that you would do for like jazz records, right? Like we're talking like modern pop production, hip hop, maybe certain rock styles, you know, where you want things to really hit hard and you want your loudness to appear in Spotify. So your tracks appear louder, but like without getting into all loudness stuff, the way I look at it is if my client hears their mix on Spotify and it sounds better than if that's louder and brighter and crisper and punchier than everyone else's mix, then I've done my job. You know, I don't care how I get there, right? It doesn't matter what I do to get there. But what I was noticing was there was this final step I was missing. So Gold Clip filled that, and that is, I'll use it on kick and snare. I might have it on a drum bus. I'll definitely have it on the master bus. And it just tames those transients down, and your mix just goes bang. Like,
I mean, everyone's got a clipper out there nowadays. I mean, clippers are everywhere. So I'm curious to check out Gold Clip and see why it's so special. It's one of the few that I haven't looked at yet. I too have sort of discovered clipping in 2025. Feels like that was sort of like the cool new thing in 24 and 25. And I agree. I think that is one of the big secret weapons that a lot of these modern pop producers are using, because it's not limiting. They're not limiting these tracks, but clipping can sort of come across as clipping or as limiting, rather.
Because so like, I'm a little like, okay, so I haven't mixed a song in a couple of years.
So the quick explanation is the difference between limiting and clipping is that think of the top, the ceiling of your audio space where the waveform lives, right? A limiter is going to push up into that ceiling and turn the volume down on those peaks, right? And that's going to limit things. And so you're going to get that distinctive pumping sound as your peaks hit the ceiling and get turned down very quickly and then back up. Clipping raises the volume of that. And when it hits that ceiling, it just chops that top off and just continues to raise. And so that chop off of the top of your waveform, it's not being turned down, it's being clipped off, literally clipped.
Yep.
And that clipping is where you get that distortion sound and that I don't even know if you can call it breakup, but that distortion that Mitch was talking about with the kick drum on the Sabrina Carpenter record is the peak getting cut off, and that produces a distortion sound.
Yeah, exactly. Nailed it. And then on top of that, like just to add to that, the reason why you can get away with clipping, particularly on kicks and snares, number one, they're the loudest transient in the track. And they're the thing you're often fighting against with your limiter, right? So as it gets to your master bus, the thing, as you push up, the thing that's going to start ducking and pumping is always your kick and snare, because those transients are so loud. But because the transient happens in a cycle, maybe just one cycle, and if you just clip that one cycle, even though there is an audible distortion, it's minimal, right? So you can get away with it. Like, and then on top of it, it becomes that thing where it becomes part of the sound. And then you go, how did they get their kick drum so punchy? And it's like, because it's clipped. It's a bit of distortion, it's a bit of clipping, and it's like doing the thing. And like people will get funny about it. And it's like, dude, what do you think a distressor does? A distressor clips.
Yeah.
A distressor literally has built-in clippers into it. So like there's a clipping circuit and you can clip, and that's part of a sound. And so like, yeah, it's a thing and it's a tool once again that you can use. And that's my big one for software for sure. And then the other one for hardware, I also, coming back from LA, it was dangerous going to LA and seeing everyone's cool gear and whatever. I was talking to an engineer, Steve Dearkins. He's got a podcast with Chris Salim from Mixdown Online. Anyway, Steve, me and him were talking about like Desert Island stuff, funny enough. And he was like, distressors, they're the one that you can't live without. You have to have a pair if you're serious about your analog stuff and whatever. And like my power meter once again, he'd been telling me forever, you got to get a pair eventually. Like there's a sound to them for like, especially if you're recording rock bands and rock like vocals, like heavier vocals. He's like, you need them, man. Like they're a thing. Trust me. And like I'd struggled with like in particular the SM57. You know, everyone's like SM57 for heavy vocals, and I was never getting the exact tonality of it. And Mitt was like, you put a 57, not a 57, a 7B. Sorry, so SM7B. But he's like, you put a 7B through a distressor, that's your rock vocals, that's your heavy metal vocals, that's that tone. And I did it.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, so I got back from LA, I bought a pair of distressors. And that's the biggest purchase I've ever had, like ever. Besides my monitors, that's the hugest, by far the biggest.
I mean, they're not cheap.
They're not
cheap. And I can imagine in Australia, they're probably even more expensive.
Yeah, I got a good deal from a studio that was shutting down. They were downsizing. Advice to anyone looking to get into analog, look for studios that are shutting down. I got a pair for less than one, almost brand new. So, so I got a really good deal on them that just happened to be there. And I had them in my watch list for like a while anyway. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to spend some money this year and really up my recordings and mixing and stuff, and they're a thing. Like the distressor is a thing, but they're not cheap. Like, and I wouldn't recommend someone just going out and buying them.
I think depending on what you do, they're a worthwhile investment.
Yeah, like
and that, I mean, that speaking of investment, and you made that investment. I think if you're going to spend money in a studio, in your studio space or in a professional studio space, actually investing in quality gear is never going to be a bad investment.
No.
Analog gear, especially in this market, is going to continue appreciating in value, even years and years and years after they've stopped production. So you wonder why, like, something costs so much money and you can get a newer counterpart cheaper, or the digital. Dude, analog gear is not always going to be the best investment, but it's not going to be a bad investment.
Yeah, if you buy like real things,
really good quality pieces,
like an actual label brand thing, and you get a good deal in the used market.
Yeah,
especially, like, it can be fine as an investment because you can actually not lose any money. And then if you don't like it and you can sell it for the same amount or a little bit more, you haven't lost anything.
Yeah,
and you've learned what something sounds like, and
you paid to rent. You paid $0 to rent it essentially for a couple of years.
Totally,
yeah. Nice.
But it's not fair. Like, I'm not going to say that that's what everyone should do, of course. Like, it was a big one for me, and it definitely changed the sound of my drums when I track and mix. And then, like, Nate, you mentioned earlier, like with the Brick Lanes, like only having a pair, right? One of the biggest things that I do when mixing, like after, like post tracking, I mix through a lot of analog. Like all this gear gets used in the mix stage, and you commit through a lot of this stuff. Because, like, I want to use distressors on kick and snare, but then I might want to print it vocals. So you print, and people get scared of that, but you don't need to with analog. Like, so, like, one of the benefits, I'll just throw this out. I know we're running out of time, but when I have this discussion online, a lot of people go, "Oh, but then you've got to commit it, and then what if I want to change it?" One of the beauties of printing through analog gear is it's more forgiving than printing with plugins in a way. So you can over compress a little bit and make that mistake if it's a mistake. Like, for instance, on the distressors, maybe I print a vocal and hammer it like 8 to 10 dB of gain reduction, right? And then I print that into my track. I can still compress more later on. Like, I can change.
There's still more to go.
There's still more there that you can do. And on commercial releases, like commercial records, this is what's been done forever. And it's kind of the thing that people forget. Like, it's compressed in tracking, and then it's compressed again in mixing, and then there's more processing on mastering as well. So there are lots of stages of compression where things get slammed more than you think. And like, to like add to that, like if you go and listen to, there's like famous like mix sessions that are available online, and people go, "Oh, there's this CLA session where the Green Day tracks and everything just sounds perfect when they push faders up." That wasn't by accident. That was because they were processing it on the way in. I don't care who engineers a record. No one has a bass guitar and a snare sound that sounds like those records, and you just push a fader up and it sounds excellent. That's been processed properly. And so people commit, and people have lost the art of committing things and then going, that's that sound. And if I need to fix it more later, I'll do more later. But it's
Well, again, it goes back to big studios closing, and that's the way that they worked, because they only had, a pair of LA somethings or a pair of EQs, whatever it might be, right? So you had to print, you had to commit to that sound for that piece of equipment so that it can be opened up to use on something else.
Well, and not forgetting that if you were going into a professional studio, you're going into Abbey Road to track your album, you're doing that in a week. There's no, I just won't commit to it because I'll fix it in 3 weeks' time when I've mixed it 16 times.
Yeah, totally.
You're in Abbey Road studio for 7 days. Goodbye. Thank you. It's track it, print it. We're out of here.
Right.
And I know we've talked about it before, but it's kind of, it's dangerous to have that many options afterwards.
Oh, it so is.
So,
is. It only degrades the process more by having all those options.
Commit to it. Get it done.
Move on with your life.
Yeah.
Get it right.
Totally.
Yeah. Take the risk. Yeah. Make the mistake. Make the mistake if it's
dude, that's how we learn. You make a mistake, it sounds terrible. I won't do that again. Yeah. Or maybe it sounds awesome. I'll do that elsewhere because that will sound rad on something else.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where can people, if everybody's got to this point in the podcast and they're like, this is super interesting, I need to know more about building equipment and making how can they find you? How can they?
Cool.
Look you up?
You can head to my website, the DIYrecordingstudio.com. And I've got that soldering course there if anyone's interested in beginning, learning DIY. And do it, Neil. And and then I've got my YouTube channel, the DIY Recording Studio, and then my Instagram. So a lot of people will contact me nowadays via Instagram as well, which is DIY Recording Studio. So any of those ways, people can reach out and see the content that I'm making.
Take my money.
Yeah,
there it is.
Oh, $5 American. That's like $100 here.
No, dang.
Not that good, but yeah, that's better. But yeah, that's where you can find me. Or you can find me at NAMM, but this is coming out after that. So yeah, whatever.
So you'll have been to NAMM.
It was a pleasure seeing you at NAMM, dude.
Yeah, dude, it was so nice to meet you there, man. And like,
it was so great to like do the things and to see the things.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're going back, Nate, you said?
I'm going. Yeah, I'll be back there in January. Absolutely. Even though this is airing in February and we'll have already come back.
Yep.
We'll have another NAMM episode.
We'll have another NAMM episode.
Covering what Nate bought this year.
Oh, yeah. You bought, I meant to ask you about that too.
Yeah.
How'd you find the Z&Hs?
How did I find you, or how do I find
how
them?
Have you found using them? Like, have you enjoyed using them?
Yeah, I have. They pretty much sit on my mix bus. I haven't really used them much in like individual track mixing. I pretty much mix through my mix bus, cool. External chain mix bus. So yeah, they sit there. I mean, I haven't really had a situation where it's like, these don't sound good, let me turn them off. Like, they sound fantastic. And I might need to like maybe turn down the high end a little bit or tweak something here or there, but like, I haven't yet come across a situation where I'm like, not the right thing. Yeah. Let me look elsewhere.
That high frequency shelf on them is unbelievable.
The amount of clarity that it can add to something, it's really kind of mind boggling.
Yeah.
They're really, really good pieces of equipment. And I'm very interested to go back to the Z&H booth and check out some more of their stuff. I think that they're doing something pretty neat. When you talk about clones and what they're able to accomplish.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Again, I don't think no one's going to know, like, oh, they used a clone on that song, not the real thing. Like, no.
Yeah. I'll give you one tip with those vocals. They're my vocal EQ in tracking.
Oh, yeah? Oh,
yeah. Just that little bit. You know, people love that little taste of air,
Yeah.
Sure. The V250s on a vocal train in tracking, like if you're using a compressor. So I'll usually go mic of choice, preamp of choice, usually an Eve 1073 or something, with a distressor or into a 1176 or whatever, and then into that EQ just for that extra little bit of lift.
Does the high end, does it do that sort of Moog airband thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Set it at 25 and just boost it and you'll hear it straight away. Yeah.
Hell yeah. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I would say it's better than the Moog. Hot take.
Shots fired.
Yeah.
Moog, come and defend yourself on our podcast. Neil, I think you have one question you want to ask.
Oh yeah. So one thing that we always love to ask on this podcast is, what was the name of your first band?
Oh God.
Oh, this is a good one.
This is going to be a good one. This is
Man,
going to be good.
I'm gonna have to get an edit of this and send it to all my mates that were in that band and mean like, God damn you. There was a band out of high school that I joined. I played drums in, and the
Of course you
name,
did. Best people do.
yeah, and it was atrocious. It was called Echo Once, and it was because one of the guys wanted to name it after the car in Ghostbusters, and he read it wrong.
Yes.
Echo One, and he called it Echo Once instead. So
You know what? Is it me? I think Echo Once is quite a cool name for a band. I've got to be honest. That's
Actually, yeah.
Yeah,
When I was a kid,
you've definitely got
I
away
got
with
to go and actually sit in the actual Ghostbuster car.
nice.
yeah, cool,
At Universal Studios, I got to sit in it.
dude. That's sick. That's sick.
Mic drop.
Yeah. Well, the
That's
band's
awesome.
music was atrocious, so. But yeah,
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mitch, for taking some time out of your busy morning to come hang with us for a little bit. It was really great talking to you. This was a really great conversation. We'll post links to everything that we talked about. There's a lot of stuff we talked about, from all the kits that we talked about to your website, your course, everything. There will be links for everybody to go and check out. And when we're at NAMM, we'll sit down and chat a little bit more about what's new and maybe what's going on at the Z&H booth, and we'll catch up some more for a future NAMM episode on this podcast. So, man, thank you so much. It's been really great having you here.
thank you guys. Thank you so much.
man.
Thanks for sticking around and listening to this episode of Sound Discussion with our friend Mitch Rose. You can find links to Mitch's YouTube channel and other things mentioned in today's episode down below in the description. I think we can all relate to the DIY ethos of music, whether it's building gear, recording, playing house shows. The DIY spirit is at the very core of music and art creation. As always, thank you for supporting our podcast by listening, subscribing, and leaving a 5-star review. And now you can support us by wearing some sweet Sound Discussion threads. Do people even say that anymore? Go to sounddiscussionpodcast.com/shop. Also, don't forget to sign up for our mailing list so you can get access to these episodes at least a few days before everyone else. And one more thing before we go, Mitch loves DIYing so much, he might actually be taking it to an unhealthy level.
You feel a little bit like Tony Stark in Iron Man, you know, like you're building away and you're like, man, I'm doing this cool thing.